In this video, I want to answer the following two questions. What is an impulse? And why interoceptive intervention techniques? What is an impulse? Why is it important? How do I work with it? With any coaching program, we want permanent behavioral change for our clients. We want transformation. Now, what is transformation? It is to move from a negative mindset and destructive habits to another, more positive and more effective mindset and behavior. For some, it means moving from a dysfunctional behavioral style to a place of effective and positive functioning. The core of our behavior is our self-perception, our values, our needs and beliefs, our fears, emotional wounds, defense mechanisms, as well as the way we grew up, our history, in other words. If behavioral change was easy, every person in the world could bring him or herself to a better, more successful place. What do I want from being helped? If someone goes for help, he wants to change his negative, dysfunctional behavior and feelings to an optimal level of function. A person who goes for coaching does not necessarily want to change his negative behavior, but wants to move to another level of success, whatever success means to him. For an athlete, it means better performance, faster times. For an entrepreneur, it may mean better customer relations, a higher turnover, or better teamwork amongst his or her staff members. For both the athlete and the entrepreneur, this means being able to perform at high levels of stress. Whether it is to be relaxed under pressure or just to function optimally after a traumatic incident, the key to getting it right is to help the body-brain nervous system process and integrate all relevant information so that the nervous system is in a state of calm and tranquility. Whenever there is a change in our self-perception, our core beliefs and values, or our needs are fulfilled, our behavior always changes. Why is behavioral change so difficult? The reason why it's so difficult to change our self-perception, our values and core beliefs, which will lead to behavioral change and better performance, is because it is so deeply embedded in our body nervous system. Let me explain this with the following diagram. Let's start with behavior. We have positive and negative behavior. The fuel for our behavior is emotions. Positive emotions become the energy behind positive behavior. Negative emotions become the energy behind negative behavior. But behind all our emotions, our thinking processes are locked up. In other words, if I think life is wonderful, my relationships are supportive, and I look forward to my work and generally generate positive emotions. However, when I begin to tell myself how unfair life is, people can't be trusted, and work is something I have to do just to get my paycheck, I generate negative emotions that lead to negative behavior. But what most people do not realize is that before we think, we feel first. But this feeling is not on an emotional level, but on a sensory level. This is an impulse, a felt sense. So, what is an impulse? It is a vague, subtle inner sensation that cannot be expressed in words. It lies on the border between the conscious and the unconscious. It is an embryonic form of consciousness in which body and mind are not separated. Impulses lie below the radar of normal awareness. These are vague somatic sensations that mostly go unnoticed. An impulse is a physical experience, a physical awareness of a situation or a person or an event. It is an inner aura that includes everything you know from a given topic at a specific time, and that communicates it to you in its entirety. rather than piece by piece. An impulse does not come to you in the form of thoughts or words, but as a single bodily feeling. Because an impulse does not communicate itself in words, it is not easy to describe it. It is an unknown deep level of awareness that is not even noticed. Yet, impulses are not completely unnoticed. They can be found by giving them a special quality of awareness. When paying special attention to impulses, they can show up with greater clarity, although they were initially vague and indescribable. Think of two people who played a significant part in your life. Let your mind move back and forth between these two people. Become aware of an inner aura that arises when you think of person A, and awareness of all about person A. Do the same with person B. Observe the total other aura from person B. Try to describe these impulses in words. This inner aura does not consist of a lot of different pieces of person A or person B. You don't think of each one's characteristics, how they speak, how they appear. All these different pieces of data on each person are communicated to you at one time in the form of a physical sensation, an impulse of everything about person A and all about person B. These impulses do not come to you through your thinking. Why do you have these impulses, these felt senses about person A and about person B? The answer is not in your mind, but in your body. Only your body knows. An impulse is not an emotion, it has an emotional component, as well as factual components. But it is bigger than a single emotion, much more complex, and very difficult to describe in words. How do we normally try to fight or handle these impulses? We try to reduce the impulse. You try to convince yourself that the problem doesn't exist or that it's too small to worry about. You can't let something like that bother you, and does that change anything? No. The next time you encounter your problem, the same impulse comes back. Or we try to analyze the impulse, and that analysis may be right or wrong, but it still doesn't change the impulse. We also try to resist the impulse. You're going to bite your teeth and just ignore it, but does that help? No. Or we give ourselves a lecture. It's time to pull up my socks, act like an adult. There is no reason in the world why such a problem can be my boss. But does that help? No. The next time you encounter your problem, the same impulse comes back. All of these approaches cannot and will not work because it does not address and change the place where the impulse arises. It originates in the body, it's physical. If you want to change it, start with a process of change that is also physical. You have to use an interoceptive intervention technique. And such a technique is multi-level neuro processing. So what makes behavioral change successful? Underlying our impulses is our self-perception, needs, values, wounds, and core beliefs. This causes a negative or positive impulse, followed by a particular negative or positive thought pattern, a negative or positive emotion that result in negative or positive behavior. This is why behavioral change is so difficult. If you try to change behavior on the level of behavior, you work against all these internal powers that drive your behavior. The impulse must first change. What any interoceptive intervention technique like MLNP does is it changes the impulse. It changes the negative impulses which are first in this chain of action from negative to positive. When a negative impulse is neutralized or even changed to a positive impulse, the negative behavioral pattern is broken and a new mindset emerges, which in turn leads to new behavior. When MLNP is used in a therapeutic situation, the facilitator will focus on the needs, wounds and fears underlying these negative impulses. When MLNP is used in a coaching situation, the coach will focus on the limiting beliefs, core values, needs and anxieties underlying the negative impulses before other results can be expected. So why interoceptive intervention techniques? If transformation is your passion, if it excites you to see yourself change and become more successful, or to see yourself emerge from psychological captivity and or bad habits, then any interoceptive intervention technique is probably one of the most important processes you will learn to use. A few self-help techniques: enough sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours per day, body mapping, for example the gingerbread man, enough exercises, especially bilateral exercises, 20 to 30 minutes per day, and breathing exercises. For professional help, contact any MLNP facilitator. To find out if there is a facilitator near you, contact Edgar Phillips, 082 485 8755, or his email address edgarphillips@gmail.com, or you can contact me, Dr. Bertie Hannekom, 074 641 1931.